Welcome back, traders and investors, to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep, brought to you by MarketFi. I'm your co-host, Joel Elconin, along with Brianna Valesky, and we have Russell Rhoads on the line. He's a senior instructor with the Options Institute at the CBOE. Russell, how you doing this morning?
Doing very good. How are you guys?
We're doing good. We got a good show going, and we've talked to you in the past about extended hours trading, and we really like to focus a lot on the show about what goes on in the S&P futures and also the stocks. Sometimes it can give you a good indication of what may be happening during the regular session, or at least some levels to rely on. Now, CBOE's gotten into this a little bit. Can you tell us what initiatives they've taken, how it's going, and has there been any recent action?
Well, as far as initiatives go, back in June of last year, we extended the hours for VIX futures to basically match up with the hours for the S&P futures that trade over at the CME group. And then last month, we actually extended hours for SPX and VIX option trading, and they both open at 2 a.m. Chicago time now, which is to coincide with the European Open. Now, a lot of people get kind of funky about who's going to get up at 2 a.m. to trade options, and my response is it's not the 2 a.m. time that people in the U.S. need to think about. It's the 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern time when we get some major economic numbers. And, in fact, the reason I wanted to talk to you guys today was because we had that advanced GDP number, which is pretty much the first major number we've gotten since we started doing extended hours trading for SPX and VIX options.
Okay, so tell us what went on there. What kind of volume, what traded, and what do you think the implications are?
Well, the volume's still fairly light. It looks like we traded about 1,000 VIX options up until about 10 minutes ago when I was down on the CBOE floor looking at the Bloomberg. And it looks like we traded maybe a couple of hundred SPX options. But what I did was I dug out what appears to be some trades that were done just before the number came out and just after the number came out. In the SPX, somebody did, I don't even know what to call this. It looks like a ratio diagonal spread. They sold, and this was like 15 seconds before the number came out. They sold 15 of the May 15th 2095 puts for 1565, and they went farther out and a little bit lower down, and they bought 30 of the June 2085 puts for 3215. Maybe they were thinking that the number would be a non-event, and then maybe we drift lower into June. That's how that one appeared. And then there was a kind of a small trade using weeklies that expire next Friday. After about 20 minutes after the number, somebody sold 10 of the 2060 puts for 453 and bought 10 of the 2055 puts for 403. Got a credit of 50 cents, and as long as the S&P 500 is above 2060 a week from Friday on May 8th, that turns out all right for them.
And, is there good? There obviously, if there's buyers and sellers, two-sided market, you must be getting some market makers in there willing to do these trades, huh?
Yeah, we have 2 or 3 market makers that are involved in both SPX and VIX during the extended hours. They're not trading on the floor. Nobody's coming in here at 2 a.m., but they're trading electronically. So, and in the VIX, we actually we had somebody trade a 200 lot just before the number. That looks like a fairly decent trade right now. They sold the May 15 puts for $1.30. They sold 200 of them and bought 200 of the May 14.5 puts for 95 cents. And I know VIX is up a little bit in reaction to the number. It's still got a little ways to go for this trade to look good, but a bullish VIX trade, which would be a bearish S&P 500 trade, that somebody decided to put on, again, 15 minutes before the number, something you couldn't have done a couple of months ago.
No, that's interesting. And I know we've talked before about, stocks eventually going around the clock. And, now they close from 8 to 4 a.m. You see any initiatives taking place on that?
There is nothing other than discussions in response to questions like that. I've gotten that question a couple of times this week already. And what you need to have a viable option market and what the market makers need to be out there quoting is a liquid underlying market. With the SPX options, we've got S&P futures from the CME group, and with VIX options, we've got VIX futures that trade fairly well here. I think with stocks, it would be very difficult to open up stock options at 2 a.m. But stock, and this is just my opinion, and nothing that CBOE is saying. But when you get up early and you're watching the quotes scroll across the bottom of your favorite business channel, and you see Apple trading almost as well as a lot of stocks trade during the regular trading session, you'd think that at least the liquidity for market makers, what they need access to, is there. So it's viable. I just I don't know what form it would take. It definitely would be too difficult to try to open up at 2 a.m. though.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I know the S&P futures are pretty much around the clock and pretty good liquidity as well. Tom, Russell, I think the last time that we had you on, you had some statistics on the overall market, the kind of gains that we kind of had, and you were a little bit skeptical about, at least a big continuation of the upside. Have you looked at your data recently and have any take on that?
Yeah, I think what we were talking about is how VIX had remained somewhat elevated relative to where it was last year, even as we were making new highs, and since then, I am bold enough to say that I was wrong, and VIX has moved lower than the average for last year. Although we'll see what happens with respect to today. But in addition, we've got 4 volatility indexes, and when you look out at 3-month and 6-month, the 3-month and 6-month versions of VIX, those are still fairly elevated. So once we got past the employment number that came out in early April, it seemed like the near-term volatility, maybe they're looking forward to summer and thinking, we're going to have smooth sailing until the fall. But the longer-dated volatility indexes still are pricing in some extra risk. So, and I don't know if that was a projection for when the market thinks the next rate hike is going to be, or the first rate hike is going to be. But it still looks like longer dated, there's some risk. And just anecdotally, I haven't even seen the GDP number, but I did hear one guy in the S&P pit blurt out, he said, they won't raise this year. So
yeah,
that's just somebody else's words, not mine.
Okay, no, that's the S&P traders, they're paying attention a little bit of fundamentals. That's interesting. I mean, we had the Fed meeting today. Do you see any?
Right.
Yeah. Do you see any kind of increased activity ahead of an event, something like that?
You have. I think what you'll see a burst of activity this morning as far as the volume goes, and then you'll see things settle in until 1 o'clock, Chicago time. But the thing that there are 3 major events, the 3 highly rated economic events: FOMC, GDP, and the employment number. And we got 2 of them today, so it's a little bit of an unusual day. I assume you'll see some adjustments being put on based on what the market has done in reaction to the GDP number, but there'll definitely be kind of a lull after the first couple of hours of trading until the end of the day. We usually see most of our volume at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. I think it'll probably be accentuated today.
Okay, and talk about some of the education services offered there by the CBOE for our listeners.
Okay, we've got a wide variety of free stuff on our website, and I emphasize free. If you go to cboe.com/learn center, I believe is or you can just get there through cboe.com. In fact, in a half hour, I'm doing a webcast that's free on extended hours trading, of all things. People ask me what's a great book to pick up if you're going to start out in the option market, and I say don't spend any money on a book. Just go to our website, and then in addition, we've got an app that basically walks you through from Mr. Call and Mr. Put to very advanced strategies that you can do as you ride the train to and from work or that sort of thing.
Okay. All right. We've been on the line with Russell Rhoads. He's Senior Instructor with the Options Institute at the CBOE. He joined us every couple months to talk about products at the CBOE as well as extended hours trading. Great information. Thanks a lot for coming on, Russell. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.